Keyboard. Up to this point, we've put all of our information in our classes and run them, and they've worked correctly, but there's been no interactivity between whoever's using the program, and uh, we want that to be possible. So from now on, we're going to be able to ask questions of the person using the program. They're going to be able to type in information, their name or the numbers they want to do math on, and then the program will be able to do that. So the first thing I'm going to do is create my new class for lesson 7. And I'm not going to worry about um, the main this time because I'm going to be copying and pasting some programs that are already ready to use. So I'm going to copy and paste this, and then we'll talk about what's going on here once it's in there. So I'm going to do Command A or Control A, depending on if you're using a Mac or a PC, and just paste the entire thing in there. And then Command A, Command I to fix the indenting so it's the way that I'd like it to be. Now notice if you didn't use lesson 7 for the name of your program, you would have some error messages because we copied in something that thinks it's lesson 7. If this had still said like lesson 6 or something else, it would give you an error message saying the name of the program needs to match here. So make sure that that does say lesson 7. So what's inside here? We've created a scanner called KB Reader. This scanner is going to be looking at system.in to figure out how it works. And system.in is what Java calls the keyboard. So we've created something here called KB Reader that's going to be looking at the keyboard to see if people do anything. And then I say int I equals kbreader.nextInt. So the next thing that's going to be typed into the keyboard is going to be an integer, and I'm going to call it I. Then I'm going to do system.out.println 3 times I. So let's see. Oh, and I also want to put this. This should have come in on its own line. So enter your integer here. And one thing about copying from Google Docs into Eclipse, Eclipse cannot use the smart curly quotes. So if you are going to copy things instead of typing it yourself, you're going to need to change those things from those curvy smart quotes to plain quotes. So I'm going to run this. I'm going to put in 3001. It's going to multiply the number I put in times 3 and print it out. So let's see if it works the way it's supposed to. Notice the console now says enter your integer here. I have to click inside that window somewhere. I'll type in a number. It multiplied it by 3 and printed it to the screen. I could type something else. I could type something like 5 and it will multiply it by 15. Right? What if I type in something that's not an integer like a decimal like 5.0? That's a double. The computer is going to give an error message all in red. Uh, they call error messages exceptions, which says, hey, you did something wrong. I was expecting an int, you gave me a double, um, and the program just quits. What if I tried something else? Like I said, my integer is Bob. Again, it's going to give an error message because I didn't type in integer. So what if I don't want to type an int? Um, Well, I would just use a different method. I wouldn't use the .nextInt method. I would use the method for doubles or for strings. So as it says here in our lesson, if you want to input a double, you use .nextDouble instead. So I'm not going to paste this one in here. This time I'm just going to get rid of the my int line, and I'm going to say double. My double equals KB reader dot, and if I start typing and I get to next, it's going to guess that next double is what I want because I started out with a double. So I could just hit enter and it'll put in next double for me. I could put in the semicolon, and then I could print out you typed plus my double, and it'll tell me what I typed in. So if I run this, let's see, I've got an error here because I have system.out and I forgot the dot. System.out dot println. It says enter my integer here because I didn't update my directions. So if I try type in an integer like 4, it says you typed 4.0 because I told it the next thing that I type in is going to be a double. It's fine with me typing in an integer because it will convert it to a double. It wasn't fine typing a double because it can't convert to an int unless I tell it how to by casting it. And if I actually type in a double, it's fine. It tells me what I typed in. I can do math on it. I can do whatever I want with it, but I've now able to type into the keyboard the number that I want instead of having to put it into the program before I can run the program. All right. What if you want strings? Well, you might guess that you would use dot next string, but that's not true. Use dot next. All right. So instead of dot next int or next double, you just use next. So this time I'm going to say system.enter your string here, and then string my string equals kb reader dot. And now it's going to guess. It's giving me a couple options: next line or next. I'm going to use next, and then I'm going to print it out. And let's see how it works. So it says enter your string here. I'm going to try Bob, and it prints out Bob. What if I try something that's like a number? If I try 4, it says 4 because it's able to convert 4 into a string. It thinks of it just as the character for 4, not as the actual number 4. What if I try something like Bob Jones? It only prints Bob. All right, and that's because I did kbreader.next. kbreader.next is going to just go up until I hit a space and not going to continue after that. To type in a string that has a space in it. Well, in that case, we're going to use that other option that Eclipse tried to give us. Instead of using .next, we can use .next line, and then it will read in everything that we type in as our string. So I could do Bob or I could do 4 like before, but I could also do something like Bob Jones, and it will include the entire thing. So why don't we just do that all the time? Some problems sometimes, especially if you want to do next line and then you want to do additional doubles or ints or those kinds of things afterwards. If you use next line, it works great for all of the strings that you're going to do, but as soon as you switch to something else, it's not going to work correctly. So only use it if you have to, and then if you have to, you've got to create a new keyboard scanner after that and start using a new keyboard scanner. So it's a little bit annoying, but that's what we have to do to get around that. So there's a couple things that we kind of skipped over at the beginning. We talked about the scanner is we use the word KB reader. You don't have to use KB reader, but that's what I like to use because it's very clear to me that it's going to read information from the keyboard. Later on, we'll learn about other scanners, and so if we name it with a way that helps us remember which one's which, that's really helpful. Some other things that we had to do is at the top we had some import statements. So there was an import java.io and an import java.util. So those are imports that are imported into Java only if we need them, and they help us quite a bit when we want to use a scanner like the keyboard. So what would happen if we don't include those? So we'll get an error message that says scanner cannot be resolved to a type. And if we click on it, it'll say, hey, you can solve this error by importing scanner. And so we can have it do that for us, import java.util.scanner, and then it'll solve all that error message. Usually we do java.util.star, which will include more than just the scanner utilities. It'll include some more things, but that's the minimum is to import the scanner. So if you get that error message, Eclipse will try to help you solve that problem, all right? So you're going to see you're going to have some different projects for this one rather than a bunch of problems. What I want you to do is write a program that will allow a person to type in the area of a circle, and then it's going to do the math to figure out what the radius would be of that circle. Remember in our math class lesson, we learned how to do square roots and we learned how to import pi. So you're going to use those two things. So you're going to also have the computer print out what is the area and then wait until the user types in the area of a circle. And then you're going to send out the answer. You're going to say the area of the circle is, and then whatever number they typed in for the area, then the radius of your circle is, and whatever it calculated for the area. So you'll write a program that does that. All right. Then also, you're going to write another one that's going to say what's your first name. You'll type in your first name. You'll say what is your last name. You'll type in your last name, and then it'll print out what your full name is. So any user would be able to type in their first name, their last name, and have it print to the screen. And you'll use the keyboard reader so that that doesn't have to be pre-programmed, so it can be typed in for each person that uses the program.